We're especially pleased to have Amelia with us today because we had an ambition to be as global as it was possible to be. We got as far as Yorkshire with Graham and Andrew, but we can introduce a little bit of New Zealand with Amelia. Anyway, Amelia Harvey, co-founder of the global quality dairy brand, The Collective, best known for their gourmet yogurt. Amelia, if you'd like to take it from there.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Really glad to be here. Thank you to Brodies for inviting me. Lovely listening to Andrew and Graham there as well. Andrew and I know each other quite well. I'm surprised it didn't come up in some of the conversation, but we took on Aldi and challenged them on copying our brand. That might be something we get to in the Q&A. And it's really lovely to be talking to a Scottish audience. I don't have a very strong Scottish accent, but I grew up, went to school and uni, and started working in just outside Glasgow for Kellogg's. Started my career with Kellogg's, moved to London, worked for L'Oreal, and then Goo Chocolate Puds before starting The Collective now 10 years ago. So it's 10 years since we bought The Collective from New Zealand under a joint venture into the UK. And we've got presence in UK, New Zealand, Australia, and then have just launched into France. So today what I'd really like to do is just probably give you a quick canter through the business and talk about our story over the last 10 years, talk about reflections over the last 6 months and what that's meant to the business. And then get onto the Q&A because I think there's real richness in discussing and sort of going into any particular point. So our story isn't dissimilar to Hex, wonderful brand doing amazing things in the supermarkets. And I'm also a big fan of Scampi myself as well. So what do we do? So we're an outsourced business. We're not about farms. We're not about having our own cows. We're an outsourced business, and really our ambition is all about taste, happiness, and bringing taste and fun to the dairy aisles. And we thought that the dairy area and the dairy aisles have been quite prescriptive in the past. We brought a bit of what we did in Goo Pud, so my co-founder was ex-Goo as well, into the dairy aisle. So the business, so just to give you a brief background on the business, so the business started in 2009 by two chefs, a Kiwi and an Israeli chef. My other co-founders on the other side of the world, Offer and Angus. They both had food businesses. One was in dips, one was in soups in New Zealand. And they really set about wanting to create the best tasting yogurt in the world. And hopefully some of you will have tried it. So you can see the passion fruit in the middle of the screen. That was our first launch into the dairy category. So Offer and Angus spent over a year trying to create this wonderful yogurt. We own a dairy in Auckland. So we manufacture in New Zealand, but in the UK we're in an outsourced model. And as Mike and I were exiting Goo, so we worked together with James Arvedick, who founded Goo, for 4 years building that business. Mike and I were looking to either launch our own business or take on another business. And we tried the passion fruit yogurt. It was sent over from New Zealand for us, and just no going back. We love the taste, we love the proposition, the colour, the brightness of it. And very quickly, it was literally 10 years ago this month that we first met Offer and Angus, and then we signed a joint venture by the December, and then we launched into Sainsbury's and Waitrose the following June. So it was a very, very quick launch into the UK. And really we set about growing the business in very similar ways to New Zealand. They were only a year ahead of us. And then since gone into Australia, which was launched out of the New Zealand business, and then into France, launched out of the UK business a year ago, which we'll talk about in a minute. So we signed a JV, and then about 4 years ago, we brought in a private equity investor from New Zealand and then merged the two businesses together. So we're one global group. And I say the word global lightly. We're not a big global conglomerate, and we work very, very closely as a team together, but we do have global reach. And we take that global reach across each of our businesses and share the insights with our retail partners. So Andrew talked a lot about talking to buyers about insights, where the consumer's at, and we do a lot of that swapping of information between the markets, particularly on the growth of different categories from around the world, which they find really insightful. And really, the theme of the conference today is about innovation and resilience. So that has run through our blood as a business really since the start. And you can see some of the products which hopefully you're familiar with and you might have seen on the supermarket shelves. And we've launched innovative flavours, ranges. We're the first yoghurt player to have clear pots, first yoghurt player to go into fresh yoghurt pouches with our Suckies range for kids. And that's now one of the fastest growing kids yogurts in the UK. And then we've since gone into all things gut health with kefir drinks and yogurts, and then kids pouches. And at the end of this presentation, I'll tell you where we're going next. So we've got a really, really big launch coming. So innovation's been running through our blood as a business. And this is just a lovely picture of Mike and I. And from a resilience point of view, that's also run through the business. Mike very sadly died 5 years ago. So from a kind of a personal perspective, I've gone it alone and have always had his kind of Yorkshire tones in my ear of telling me to keep going, keep driving forward. So that runs through my blood, and then a lot of the team who are still with us knew Mike very, very well as well. So we've always had a very challenger mentality and very kind of resilient mentality as well. So to just give you an idea of what the business looks like in the UK, we're in over 6,000 stocking points in supermarkets. And so you can see the different fascias that we're in. So we're in pretty much all retailers apart from the discounters. And we're reaching all demographics, ages. So we've got hopefully products for all across the different ranges that we have. And then we just launched into France. So we launched into Monoprix a year ago as a kind of first to market with them. We're working with a distributor there. So we have a different kind of approach to getting on the shelves in France. You really do need a field sales team in order to activate the listings in France. We're working with a great distributor called Solanest, who Paul actually, who you met earlier in the day, Paul put us in touch with Solanest and was very key. He's working for us as a consultant a couple of years ago and has been really pivotal in launching us into France. So we launched into Monoprix, and then literally in the last couple of weeks we've gone into Leclerc and Auchan and Super U. So what we've done there is we've taken what we've done in each of the different markets is taken how we want people to perceive the brand in a really fun and upbeat way, but have made sure that we express ourselves in a way that's very in keeping. So we don't use the same sort of sarcasm that we might use in the UK with the French consumer. It's much different. It's quite a different tone of voice. So we try and change our proposition there. A lot of it in France is about activation at point of purchase. So we're not spending lots of money on above the line marketing. A lot of it's activation on things like barcodes, coupons, sampling, which is quite challenging in these times. So we're using lots of coupons and stickers on pots to give consumers a taste of the product, because taste is at the forefront. So we want to try and sample as much as we can. So France has been big learning, and so far so good. And then working very, very closely with the distributor on how we activate that. And then really just to give you a bit of a feel for the brand, we get some incredible comments, and some of these that you can see on the screen still make me smile, in terms of people saying it feels like having unicorns floating around in your mouth. So we have a lot of fun and a lot of engagement and interaction with our consumers across social media, emails, and we've always placed our interaction with consumers very, very importantly. Mike's wife Sarah used to do all of our customer care. We write back to anyone that emails us with a postcard, a handwritten note, and some coupons to share with their friends and family. So grassroots advertising and marketing has always been totally within our blood. We haven't had huge marketing budgets. Andrew was talking about some of the ways that he's advertised. We've actually just done our first TV advert as well, very, very low key. It was a partnership with Channel 4 that we did on our Straight Up Natural range. So we use mainly grassroots advertising. We're not spending loads and loads of money on our marketing. So a lot of love for consumers. And then from a team perspective, so we are normally based in White City in West London, and we've just built a development kitchen. It was literally, the office was finished at the beginning of March, so we had literally just moved in. Haven't spent very much time there. We've got a new development kitchen. It's a lovely space, but we've had to adapt really, really quickly with the team, with the buyers. And actually the interaction with buyers has increased during this time. So the team are all able to have lots of interaction with our buyers, our manufacturing partners. We work with about 7 manufacturers across the UK, from ones at farms in Somerset up to Nairn in Wales, and also in Chester. So the team are able to interact from a remote point of view. And we place our values very strongly within the business as well. And this is something that we've really played up during these remote times, of just calling out when we see different values being lived and breathed by the team. So one of our key values is making things happen. As Andrew was talking about before as well, it's all about moving the dial, getting more listings, launching more products, but then we really want to win together as a team. So we've got sales, marketing, product development, finance and supply chain. So it's all a massive team effort in order to move the business forward. And then we have a lovely one called Knock Your Socks Off, which is with each other, with our retail buyers, in terms of how we send them packages in the post. We've sent them all little boxes to their homes as well, to cheer them up from working from home. And then also for consumers, we read their comments, and then we might do something fun and send them something through the post to knock their socks off and surprise them. And then the other part that's been really, really a thread running through the business, which has been getting stronger and stronger, is our approach to sustainability. So we have a black lid on our packaging. Black plastic a couple of years ago has just transformed in terms of consumers' reaction to it after Blue Planet, and we wanted to do something immediately about that. So first reaction was to take the lid off, but the team were quite hesitant in that, because it loses our brand presence. So we found a way, you can see in the picture there, of injecting the lids with green dye, so that the recycling belts can all pick the lids up, and then they can be recycled. So that was our kind of first foray into moving the business forward. And since then, we've started using rPET through our plastics. We're finding a way, hopefully, to be able to replace the plastic lids with paper. And literally every part of our business has been moving forward in a sustainable way. And just, we see it as not creating perfection overnight, but a gradual change and a progression towards making the business better. And the one area that's really, really helped is our journey to becoming a B Corp. And I don't know how many of you know about B Corps. And we started the certification process over a year ago, and our goal was to be a B Corp during 2020, and I'm really, really pleased that we got there a couple of weeks ago and have been certified a B Corp. And for those that don't know about it and are interested, do look them up and look at what being a B Corp involves. But it's been an amazing process to go through, literally opening the bonnet of the kind of bonnet of the engine of our business, and looking at everything from employment practices to carbon footprint, how we interact with our manufacturing partners. And the idea is you have to reach a score of 80. We started off the process with a score of 30, and we've made so many changes to the business to progress us towards that 80 score. And now it's all about how do you progress beyond the 80. So B Corporation's movement is to how do you increase your make it more of a sustainable business. So we're very much focused on carbon footprint, how we're going to reduce that, and how we're going to make the business even more sustainable. So, and it's lived and breathed throughout the business. We've got B champions across each of the teams, and it has really made us a much better business, and highly would recommend looking at that for your business. So the last 6 months, just a really quick reflection on how that's felt. So immediately we had to go from a very vibrant, innovative team that was very close-knit, close working together. We weren't remote at all. We're very much an office-based culture, to all working from home. So we've tried to do as many things as possible to keep that team spirit up. I don't know how closely you can see that I have never, bingo, which we played and we posted on over our social. 2 I can definitely tick is I never thought I'd be a teacher. I've done a lot of homeschooling over the last 6 months. And I also never thought I would Google how to cut my own hair. I've also done that as well. I'm sure a lot of you have given that a go too. And then in the top right-hand side is something that we did with the retailers. So I talked before about how we share insights with our retail partners from around the world. What we did straight away was started to monitor how consumers were changing. And I know Andrew was talking a lot about like the consumer being at the heart of the business. So we started sending our buyers a weekly update of where we thought the consumer was. And this is just a little extract from one that we did right at the start, which was all about fight or flight. And it was reaction on how consumers were feeling, being locked in. They were seeking comfort foods. They were cooking a lot, as everybody knows. Everybody's making banana bread. And we were really looking at how consumers' eating habits and how they were changing their buying behaviours, not just in yogurts, but across the category. So we kept that up for about 10 weeks. We were sending out updates. And even now, continually looking at how consumers are changing with new lockdowns coming in, how they're then, the demand on yogurts is changing. So we stay very, very close to how that might be changing over time. And the other thing that we've really done in the last 6 months is sorted our processes, systems, and sorted our stuff out, basically. So we've just spent the last 6 months with more time focused on process to hopefully come out a much stronger business in 2021. So there's just been more time to sort ourselves out as a growing business. There's always things that we can improve on to make sure that we can go faster and more agile as the business has grown. And that's a key theme that we're focused on at the moment with over 45 people. It's how do we remain having that agility and innovative pace within the business as we get bigger. And the other thing that we spent a lot of time focusing on is our brand new launch. So I said at the beginning I was going to share where we're going. So 10 years ago we came into the category with taste and fun and innovation. And then in January, 3rd of January, we're going to be launching plant-based. So similar to Andrew's proposition with Heck of all about meat into vegan sausages, we're going to be all about great tasting dairy that can either come from cow's milk or it can come from plants. So we're going to be launching, we've literally just launched it in New Zealand a week ago. It's a mixture of oats, rice and coconut, so beautiful. And we've really focused on trying to get the taste and the texture to replicate what we brought into dairy. So it's not about, it's just oats or it's soya or it's almond. We've tried to replicate the taste and the texture and the acidity of yogurts with plant. So we see our future as being, both cow milk based, plant milk based, and becoming more and more sustainable. So still being tasty and fun and bringing innovation into the category, but our innovation will really be very, very much focused around all things plant. So giving you a little sneak preview of what it's going to look like. We'll go to the next slide. Is the range, and hopefully it looks familiar to you, and it's got the same kind of cues that the cow's milk dairy has. And really with plant, what that's allowing us to do is to help the retailers think about how they start to merchandise and merge both dairy alternatives and dairy into the same category. And there will be fundamental shifts as more and more people cut cow's milk out of their dairy and move into plant, but we're not turning our back on that. We're just offering flexitarians, mainly flexitarians. It's not going to be super focused on vegans, but it's offering a choice of whether people want to have yogurts made out of plant or cow's milk. So that was a quick run through. That's all I've got time to share today, but would love to answer any questions and have more interaction with, and I think Eric's going to help me with that.
Thanks, Amelia. Yeah, we've got a couple of questions here already. Your development in terms of either geography or product range, how strategic is the thinking behind that? Is it consumer led? Is it bright ideas in the boardroom? How does it evolve?
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting question, because as founders, we've created products based on our own gut feel. We haven't done much research. We've seen and felt the consumer demand for things, and we've come up with, when we come up with suckies for kids, there was no research involved. So it's a real balance, and as the business gets bigger and you bring in people with more experience, they do want to rely on research. So it is a bit of both, but I would still say we're pretty driven from gut feel of where we think the consumer's going, what flavours, tastes and innovation that they're wanting. So it's a bit of both, but I'd say probably more 75% driven from where we think we can see the opportunities.
And I do like the link with gut feel. It's absolutely
yeah,
on script.
Put that in.
You mentioned PE backing in New Zealand, and that came up in earlier conversations. Is that still the backing that's in place, or I'm interested from the global perspective, because funders can sometimes be a little bit parochial. How have you found that?
Our PE fund, they're a generalist investor, so they've got investments across tech and wind farms, and what they bring to the discussion is a much broader business discussion. So they're not thinking only New Zealand. The reason they invested was the European growth. And they bring a business experience and their kind of, I guess, helicopter view out of the category. And there's a range of PE companies that you can work with, and consumer-led ones. You know, they also bring their strengths. But I would say with our one, that, you know, it's great to have the perspective across different industries and different like an international perspective as well.
Thanks, Amelia. With no other questions, you gave us an Aldi taster about a dispute, but I've got a sense of we're finishing on quite a positive note, and we should perhaps quit while we're ahead.
Well, it was quite positive because they did withdraw the product that looked very, very similar to mine and Andrew's. So I could leave it at that.
That sounds like a very positive way to finish. Amelia, thank you so much.
We
are bang on timetable, and we're keen to stay with it. I have to be honest and say, in the early summer when we talked about this conference in this context, there was some doubt about how successful it might be, but hopefully you agree that judging by the numbers we've sustained for the entire period, that it has been some success. And I think it has to be said that's wholly attributable to our speakers and their positive messages, notwithstanding what's happening out there just now, including phrases like reasons to be cheerful and put your money on food and drink. So thank you to our speakers. Thank you to you, our delegates. Thank you for attending, and that closes our conference program. Thank you.